to order. As a formal roll call, what we're going to do is just do quick introductions of the different executive boards. So we'll start with Mr. Stallworth.
Yes, I'm Lynn Stallworth, Village of Madison, retired state police.
DeCarlin Seward, I'm the village manager of Richardson Park.
Tom Mick, I'm the village manager of Park Forest.
Brian Mitchell, Administrative Village of Madison.
Denise Pavlik, SouthCom Director.
Cindy Ziebert, Madison Police.
Kathy Muirhead, SouthCom.
Operating committee.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, John Kroll, Chief of Police, Village of Olympia Fields. Bruce Siegel, Fire Chief, Park Forest.
Cliff Butts, the Police Chief for the Village of Park Forest.
Paul George, Police Chief, Village of Madison.
Rodney Wilson, Fire Chief, Richard Park.
Ed Leeson, Fire Chief, Village of Madison.
Yeah, and all of our guests as well, not only the board members, please introduce yourselves.
Deputy Chief Pete Green from Park Forest Police Department.
Carl Mormon, Deputy Chief, Richmond Park Police Department.
Michael Jones, Deputy Chief, Village of Madison.
Carl Fry, Deputy Chief, Olympia Fields.
Anybody in the back?
Sam Minot, Madison Fire Shift Commander.
Kelly Piles, IT consultant for SouthCom.
Yeah, everyone.
All right. Casey Tony, Southtown Star newspaper.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah. We already went around? Oh, and everybody here? Okay, and Dave McCarskey, the village administrator of Village of Olympia Fields. Okay, Casey.
Sure, thanks. Actually, I'll let Tom, you want to go ahead and start framing the conversation that we're going to start?
Yeah, I think what we're here for this morning is we had our meeting on May 29th. That was a board of directors meeting. From there, we discussed any number of issues related to frustrations that our respective public safety departments are having with SouthCom. We talked about issues of reliability, issues of utility, in particular where we've come from since the inception of the program. We also framed kind of the background of how we ended up with Frequentis. There's a lot of new people that are a part of the operating committee and the executive board because there seems to be there's always this transition that takes place in our respective organizations with retirements, etc. When we decided to go to Frequentis several years ago, it was because the existing system that we were working under was beginning to sunset, and I forget what was the name of the...
It was SunGuard HT.
SunGuard HTE, and we had to look at what option we were going to take to move forward. At that point in time, the operating committee and the executive board, we decided we were going to have this partnership with Frequentis. We knew at the outset that Frequentis had not been a player, at least in the public safety arena, in North America, the United States. So we knew that at the outset that we were going to become basically a beta site for Frequentis. And we looked at Frequentis' background, what they had done in Europe, and clearly had a demonstrated track record across England, other countries, across the European theater, but not in North America. Since then, they have worked, I think, to the best of their abilities, put together something that would provide utility for us. And I know that there's been ongoing frustrations from the police department standpoint, the fire department standpoint. We've gone through version 1.0, we've gone into version 2.0. We still have our frustrations. Coming out of the meeting on May 29th, we talked about putting together a list of what those outstanding issues are so that we could provide them to the folks from Frequentis and have this discussion. I think that information went out somewhere around June 10th, June 14th to the folks from Frequentis. They would be prepared to address those issues. We also had an extensive conference call in the early part of June between myself and the other village managers and representatives of Frequentis as well to tell them where we were at, what our concerns were, so that we could have as beneficial a discussion this morning. I think the only people that are on the executive board that really recall how we got to this point and how we started a partnership with Frequentis is myself and David Carson. Everybody else has changed, whether it's on the public safety side, or in the village manager's role as the board of directors. My biggest concern is what we're looking for as far as a solution is not an easy fix. And it's definitely not a cheap fix. We expressed our concerns, I think, pretty clearly in the conference call we had, that we're getting to that point where we're getting fed up. And we'd like to hear Frequentis' feedback today on what the solutions are. I don't expect that the conversation today is going to necessarily be a pleasant one. We'll look forward to what you share with us. Then we'd also want to know exactly what the timeframes are in getting us to the end product that we've paid for. I defer to Dave for anything else that he would add, and then I'll give it back to the chair as far as the discussion we had this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tom. I think one thing I wanted to stress to you is that the process that we were facing a number of years back when SunGard sort of pulled the notice on us that they no longer would support our existing CAD system, put the organization into crisis. All of a sudden, within probably a little over a year, we had to essentially secure somewhere close to $1 million, or at least financing for $1 million, and go through an extensive process to evaluate the best CAD system for our organization. That wasn't done in any short manner whatsoever. The executive staff, Ron Bono, Denise Pavlik, the entire team did RFPs, extensive evaluations, extensive site visits, vendor discussions, vendor evaluations, cost-benefit analysis. All that was reviewed with the operating committee and with the executive board. And I think it is significant, as Tom mentioned, that if you look back at when we started this project, every single police chief and every single fire chief in all 4 communities have changed. A lot of the command structure has changed. And even in our own management team, there's 2 managers out of the 4 that have changed. The original goal of this project, and this is not a typical vendor-client relationship, this is a public-private partnership. It was a team approach to accomplish essentially 2 major goals. One, to introduce in the United States the next generation of computer-aided dispatch systems. And number 2, for both Frequentis and to SouthCom, to be the best dispatch system in the entire United States. Frequentis was the leading vendor for computer-aided dispatch in Europe. Not only that, a major supplier for the U.S. military, and more significantly, during 9/11, when our nation ordered essentially a downing of every single plane, every single U.S. carrier, which was literally thousands in a matter of seconds, because we didn't know if we were essentially at war or not. It was a Frequentis system that coordinated essentially that landing and succeeded in protecting our country. This company is not a fly-by-night company, and their goal was to essentially introduce a computer-aided dispatch system into the U.S. market and having SouthCom become the model for their company. And so we recognized that we were going to be a beta site, and that beta site required extensive participation by not only our fire chiefs and our police chiefs, but by every user that was impacted by the system. Patrol officers, firefighters, dispatchers, all the end users on it. And was there some areas that we could have improved? Absolutely, on both sides, both on Frequentis, but also on the side of the administrative teams. And so today, what I'd ask you all to do, and I know the operating committee has just worked, done tremendous work in a very short period of time, to list some of the issues out for Frequentis to respond to. But I'd like to work towards a process of working towards solutions, not problems. And try to separate this list from 2 critical issues, and I think Tom phrased it to me most succinctly yesterday. There's issues of reliability that may impact immediately the public safety concerns. You know, system crashes, and we're unable to essentially address or dispatch a 911 call. And then there's usability issues. Now, if you look at most of this list, a large part of it are usability issues. And there's no way that Frequentis today will be able to give you a definitive response on how to address all their usability issues. I think what we need to come out of here is defining a process of how to tackle each and every one of these issues in a timely manner. But today, if you can sort through this list and identify those reliability issues that have an immediate impact on public safety, because Frequentis is committed to getting those corrected immediately. We're in this together. We recognize that for our investment, and if we did our job correctly, and we continue to do our job correctly, that we will get not only 2, maybe even 3 times the value of our public investment. So let's focus on the original goal. This still can be the model dispatch system in the United States. It can be the model for Frequentis to tap into the computer-aided dispatch market, and we can get 2 to 3 times the value for our taxpayers on the system. These problems are not problems, they're opportunities for solutions. They've now been clearly communicated, and I think Frequentis is up to the challenge to solve them. So let's take that spirit. So thank you. Chair.
So, thank you, Mr. Clark. To begin our conversation, let's start off with Director Pavic. She'll talk about some of the issues with the CAD system. Then we can let some of the chiefs talk about some of the issues they have with the police and fire end, and then we'll let Frequentis kind of respond to what steps we can take in order to improve the system.
May I make some opening remarks as well?
Sure.
First of all, I thank for the opportunity that we can be here today to address how we see things, go into the history of what we set up many years ago, also what we have achieved, because, and I really ask for an open mind today to talk about how everything came together, what we have achieved as well, also the cost impact for your community. If I just point out the old system we had only on the CAD side, we paid $160,000 or something like this on maintenance alone. Here we have the CAD, the records management, the mapping system, all different subsystems combined, and it is roughly 100,000. So, and this is over a period, the 1.5 million, what the entire contract length is over 7 years. If you just take the maintenance you would have had with the other systems, it would have been probably 3 million. So twice as much without having any new system. We went through a lot, and also on our side there is some frustration to go into a point today, because there is a lot of change, and what we have to come to the point of how everything was set up, how the partnership was set up, what we have achieved already, and what the open issues are. And we want to address the open issues. But just to have a clear baseline here and find, and we are committed to it, find a common way of how we move forward. And by picking out certain things out of the contents, it looks as if the system wouldn't be stable or unusable or things like this, which is not the case. And we will come to it. Please.
Okay, thank you. Denise, you want to go ahead and get started and kind of talk about some of the issues with the CAD system?
Sure. In the list that we provided, there were combined lists of things that we have been turning over to you in some cases on a daily basis. Issues that occur, some are intermittent, some occur more frequently, and I believe that there isn't, actually I'm certain there isn't anything that is on this list that you guys are not aware of. Some of them, as Dave said, some of them are, a majority of them are usability. Things that don't function as they should, things that are missing that were should be in the system that haven't been implemented as of yet. Issues with intermittent things, echo, We've had computer issues, hardware issues, and I believe that, every time that those occur, you guys always do the best that you can to address them immediately. However, the fact that they continue to occur is a problem. It's extremely frustrating for the telecommunicators to be able to sit down and do their job every day when, at one point a function key will work and then they go to use it the next time and it doesn't. And again, everything on the list is outlined. We have the list that I put in the memorandum, and then there's an ongoing list with all of the other issues that just have been sitting there. Some of them I know that have been sitting there for a while are because they're more usability. We've always dealt with the things that are most critical first, and obviously that's the way it should be. Things like having to, huge one for the telecommunicators is having to restart the computers every day, every morning. It's a big pain in the pain. But we have to do that so that we can make sure that the system is stable, that it's solid, so that they don't have any major issues. So we do that to prevent those issues. To me, that's an issue that needs to be addressed and be corrected, so that that's not something that needs to be done on a daily basis. It's just very frustrating for them to sit there every day and not have the functionality that should be there, that was promised, that they're looking for. I mean, I don't know that you want me to actually go into specifics because you have them and the list is long.
I don't think so that we have to go into all the different items on the list. In our presentation, we put some of it, and we have also a recommendation of how we should move forward. And I just say now to set up working groups which have got really decision-making authority as well, specifically for the usability, because it goes across the board. And there is, for sure, if there are many users, that some would like to have it in a certain way, others want to have it in another way, then there are some which is, probably common sense to do it differently. Some are new requirements for the usability. And these are the things we have to address, but I think we need to go into working groups in order to work through the different issues. But we will address it today in our presentation. And then we can talk about it if you have another opinion about it or if you see it differently.
Again, and that's fine, my biggest thing is from the telecommunicator standpoint, from our standpoint, if you have a function and it's supposed to work that way, it should work that way all the time, without fail. And with an inherent problem in the system is that isn't always the case. And that's a huge problem.
So you have a presentation that you want to present. Why don't we let you present your presentation, and if there's any questions from the chiefs, they can ask those questions after the presentation.
I think would be good. And we can, during the presentation, stop at any time to talk about it.
That'd be perfect.
I mean, this should be an open conversation.
I agree.
Also when you have the feeling that there is some finger pointing or so, this is not the intent at all. It's just to bring forward our view to the current situation and then make recommendations how we should address it differently. To approach it as a team, as long as the underlying commitment from everyone is stable. Okay, so just we will go introduction, meetings, purpose, like we see it, and the objectives, the history, then the status of the upgrades, responses to the certain points, so that you can see how we will respond. We have responded already to all the single items, and we will bring this into the workshops. Then new things which came up, and then a summary, just in short. So if we go through the introduction, myself, I've worked now for the company 22 years. Have been in mission critical programs all the time. From 2001 to 2011, I run the Frequentis USA subsidiary. And last year I moved back to the headquarters, and I'm spearheading now the public safety international which includes also the US. So these guys report also to me, and we've got development groups in the US and in Vienna working on this project.
Hey, Robert, can you expand on those credentials for integrated dispatch systems in both Europe and the United States? A little bit more than what I could say at the beginning.
Well, we are in public safety since the 80s. We started off with Land Rover radios for the emergency in Austria, and over the period of the 90s, we expanded into Germany, UK, Norway. We have programs very large and difficult. One of the most, the two largest ones is certainly the Met Police. We have done in a time frame to set up 3 virtual centers with 600 positions for radio dispatching, including the CCTV integration. So the ops room in the Met Police is running on our software for bringing all the data feeds in and having the operational picture on the cameras. We have a countrywide rollout in Norway for police, fire, and EMS. We have one of the biggest suppliers for radio dispatch and integrated solutions in Germany, including interfaces and networks for the Land Rover radio. Back in 2001, we installed in the Philippines a countrywide network for their hurricane or different weather situation awareness, so that they can manage the entire country. We have programs running in the neighborhood of 50-60 million euro, so roughly 70 to 75 million US dollar every year. Some with long term, some with short. We have installation in 5 different business areas, which is public safety, the air traffic control in the civil side, the defense side, the maritime communication, tracking and tracing communications, things like this, the rail business, and data networks in Europe. In the US, we have the running contract with the FAA for equipment, the towers and terminal systems. We shipped already over the last 6 years 70 systems. We installed 16 or 17 NASA communication sites networked together, so that they can, when they have a mission, they can bring all the different people together, making conference calls for 3,000 people. They can merge and split and separate them. What you pointed out, we have the system in Hearn, Virginia. Now it is in Warden for the command center for the FAA, where they have all the pre-planned flights. Every 2 hours they have this roll-up with all the airports to discuss the current situation and what needs to move from the air traffic in certain directions because of weather or any other occurrence on airports. Altogether, we are a company with 1,100 people, making roughly 200 million US dollar revenue per year. We have subsidiaries from Australia, Singapore, Shanghai, a couple in Europe, Canada, US, and Brazil. So we are an international company focused on mission-critical applications for voice and data.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that you have a great deal of experience in communications, as in radio communications.
Radio and data communication.
And what?
And data communication.
What type of data?
Data for air traffic plans to be routed throughout the world.
So what I mean?
On the public safety, we used to work, and we still work with other companies as well.
What companies?
Like Intergraph, Swissphone. We are also an integrator.
How?
That we take other products, third-party products, bring into our overall solution.
What type of product?
Land mobile radio, computer-aided dispatch, voice communication, recorders, and different.
So what other agency are you working with, CAD, computer-aided dispatch, besides of us?
This product line, and I focus now on this product line, this is a new product line which we established back in 2008. And I say wrong, yeah? Back in 2001, it was started with the next generation 911 initiative in the US. Yeah? In 2006, 2007, it started that industry really came together to define requirements. Yeah? And so we made at this point the decision of going into this. Yeah?
Okay, so this is new for us.
And this is new. Yeah? And like this, we said we have the underlying concept. There's next generation. Most of the available products originate from the 80s and 90s, some even going further back. So their underlying structure and everything is, in our opinion, from the company, not the right platform to start now for the next generation in the IT world. So in this sense, we decided to say, okay, if we go into a partnership, we define a new product which is covering really information sharing over many different applications, and this is what we have established.
And that was inherent in the beginning, Chief.
Okay, I'm still not.
In Europe, it was a leading dispatch provider, vendor in Europe. And they had a major structure, as you can see, with the U.S. military and the FAA and other global communications for voice and data. And we evaluated off-the-shelf products, and both the operating committee and the executive board made the decision to take the leading vendor for computer-aided dispatch for fire and police from Europe, allow them to do a beta site in essentially SouthCom to achieve the next generation best dispatch system in the United States for SouthCom, and for Frequentis to essentially have them a model site to introduce their next generation software to all the other municipalities throughout the United States.
My question isn't being answered. Is my question being answered?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, please.
No, I need, listen for me, please. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm specifically talking about CAD systems that you've done other than us. Yes or no? Have you done one other than us?
Here in the United
In
States.
the United States?
No.
A records management system
No,
that integrates with CAD.
no,
In other countries, have you done a records management system that integrates with CAD?
no.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
That's all I
To
need
be,
to know.
to be very precise, and this is also what we have reflected in this partnership. Yeah?
No, so this is a beta site, I
Mhm.
get it. That's what I was trying to get at. So, you have a lot of experience in communications, and have been very successful in radio communications. And this is new for everyone.
Yes.
And so, this is probably why we are now.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing to add, yeah, is that it's not that we don't have any experience in computer-aided dispatch system.
And records management, because they go together for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We have experience because we integrated many different other third-party products as cyber applications. Yeah? Like this, we have experience in what the entire functionality and what it takes. Yeah?
But what
this
kind
is
of
the
systems have you integrated? That's what I'm trying to get a better handle.
Like I said before, we work with Intergraph together, we work with Swisscom together.
But what, you worked with them, but what did you integrate? What systems did you?
We take the emergency code we give from our side, we have an interface to their system. We have an interface from their system to another system, and like this you have an integrated
So you're doing
solution.
data sharing?
We are doing data sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. But to be very precise, this is the first CAD system we developed.
Okay.
Yeah, from scratch, in this partnership.
Have you considered reaching out to some of the CAD vendors already in the U.S. just to see what's out there, or did you examine any of those systems when you were building this, or did you just build it from scratch for us?
We examined many different systems. I went to many different sites. I went to Chicago itself. I went to New York and Washington, a few small sites, large sites, before we made this decision.
Thank you.
Okay, so introduction. Vince?
So, my name is Vince Campanella. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for Frequentis USA in Columbia, Maryland. I have about 35, 36 years experience in mission critical systems. Makes me sound old, doesn't it? Background is in air traffic control, command and control, public safety systems, all in telecommunications. And I've worked with the developers on the SouthCom project for more than a year now in terms of the details and engineering processes and the testing area.
My name is John Cherkoff. I've been with Frequentis for about 6 years. Up until about a year ago, I was the project manager for the SouthCom project, and in the last year, I've been more focused on the product side and working more closely with development at Frequentis USA.
Good. When you go into the movement purpose, what we want to address today and in the objectives is the common understanding of this partnership as it was originally defined in the group. Because there are a lot of changes on your side, perhaps a different expectation what the original intent was, and so that it is clear. To address the concerns from your side, from your members, and provide information on the status, and to find the best way forward on the project. So if we go to the next slide. What was it originally? A commitment from both parties to dedicate resources, both financial and in person, to design, develop a new public safety system to eliminate silo applications. This is what we set out. This is what we also stated in our contract. This is our commitment from both sides. And we said we will document what is needed for this integrated platform, eliminating the silos, in an SSDD, a specification document. And we did this for 4 months. And then we started with the implementation. In this public-private partnership, we already invested, so that you also see our side, we already invested 6 million. Because we are dedicated to this, and we know that with this investment, we will get into a new market segment from our side. Of course, we run through many different challenges, delays, issues over the time. There were external problems we countered which we did not know at that time. There were internal problems which led us to changes. So with the external ones, the first thing was a very important thing is the interface to leads. Yeah? We tried to get and SouthCom Denise was very helpful in getting established us with the different agencies, but the agencies didn't have own documents any longer, they did not have specialists any longer, there is no test system, so it was quite a lot of work for us to re-engineer the entire interface and to test a lot, and this was unexpected effort. We tested, for example, the camera trunk up here with AT&T, and during the test phase, we adapted to all the protocols they have, and then when we cut over, the protocol was different. And then we asked, why is it different? But this is a test line, and this was operational. So we had to encounter this, and we jumped on it, and we had to resolve it. The original outset was also a data sharing platform that really any devices got all the information. When we then introduced the solution, then suddenly from the infrastructure side, we realized this is far too much. Right? And then with all the additional information suddenly coming in, the network what we had and things like this, led us to change architectural things in our solution where we eliminated dependencies on networks, where we limited and said, it is not really necessary that all the information, status information, things like this, are on the mobile in the cars, because the purpose in the car is for a specific feature set, and this should be fulfilled. All the additional system information is not needed here. So we changed our approach and redesigned certain areas from the architecture, from the application side, and this is how we stabilized the system over time. But it brought troubles at the beginning. When you go to the next one, like I said, external things, internal things, and the next one, for example, we also have this force majeure, like the lightning strike. No one can do anything about it. We had the cut over 1.5 months later. We had the lightning strikes. Luckily, one of our engineers was out there, and we worked very hard with the team at the center to keep the center up and running. It was a lightning strike through the radio coming directly into the center. We grabbed all the additional hardware we had from our US operation and dispatched an additional system engineer up here to get everything back up and running. Yeah? We thought that all the hardware would be exchanged was sufficient in order that we are back up and running, but over time we saw that certain additional subsystems were affected, which we run into trouble. Then we analyzed that, why is this not coming up? It didn't come up before. And then we found out that there's a defective card in the PRBX, there is selective router had something, and this and that. And so it actually took much longer to get everything out caused by the lightning strike. But what the experience was is, well, this doesn't function, and suddenly, sure, it is Frequentis, it is the system there, because this is what the user sees. Yeah? What it is actually underlying, if it is directly in the system, if it is hardware, software, or third-party related, is of no interest for them, because he wants to do the job, and we understand that. Yeah? But just for you to understand the infrastructure, what is behind, there are many other players, including the entire G3 network what we have. Yeah? And all this we dealt with. Whenever there was something, we jumped in, we dispatched our people. And it was not a question about, is it really now up to us? Is it our system? The most important thing was go there, sort it out, work with the center in order that everything is up and running and the force can do the job. And later on we discussed what was the underlying problem. Just to highlight the dedication we bring into this partnership and what we have done so far. Because this gets always overlooked. Other companies in there were much more reluctant. They said, prove it to me that it is our fault. I have to order now the hardware, and in 3 to 4 weeks you get it. You can't be out of service for 3 weeks. You need to have it within the next hour. Yeah? And this is how we see, because we as a company, we are in mission critical systems. Yeah? And we understand that you have to react, and later on you talk about who is responsible and who should pay for it and things like that. First and foremost, it is to address the service. And this is, again, what we, at that time when we made the decision of, do we have the commitment from our side, and is the commitment from the group here, to establish something completely new. Yeah? To establish a solution which is an integration platform, which eliminates silos, which eliminates additional costs over time and things like this. And this is what we said, that we will define the records, in this case now the records management, from our side and from your side, the specialists, to come to a final product which fulfills your operational needs and which is for all the departments and which meets the federal state regulations. This was the agreement what we originally entered, yeah? Where we said, we sit down, we define it, we bring in then our engineering based on the requirements, and you are the expert for what you need operationally. and that we establish an integrated platform which covers from CAD, records management, the entire system bandwidth what you need. This was the outset, this was the commitment, and this is what we think we show, and we are committed to.
If I could stop over this, I mean, I can only represent what was represented to me by my public safety officials, and our former chief and our former deputy chief, who was involved in the implementation from day one, had indicated to me that there certainly was areas for improvement on our behalf, on SouthCom's partnership, to ensure that the records management system for the police side really touched all the users, the patrol officers in the car, the records clerks, the adjudication administrators, everybody involved in that whole process. I don't know exactly where there was failure or if there was failure, but they did represent to me numerous times that there was a breakdown in the implementation system. Was it because the chair came from the fire side and had a good intimate understanding of fire? Was it because they had a changeover in both leadership and command? Or was it some breakdown in the integration of all the users? Or maybe because we're very small staffed, we're overstretched, giving the time and commitment. But that's part of our response. We certainly have achieved it now. I mean, you've spent numerous hours evaluating it, and I think we can now get to the point to improve all these usability issues, because we certainly have the commitment with our new leadership across the fire and police sections. Chief?
From the police part, since I'm probably the only one that's still from the police part, that's when it got implemented. I was not involved in the beginning portion, but when I talked to my fellow chiefs, they were under the understanding that the basic CAD systems that we've been using for 25, 30 years, that platform would have already been there with you all, so that you would have been building on that. So that means that they didn't think that they would have had to tell you the minute details of what a CAD system has because of what we've already experienced most of our career, and that this was going to be an upgrade to what we had in the past. Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is that there was an expectation that the board, the operating committee, provided you with the minute details.
Yes,
exactly.
And this is what we, at that point in time, also reflected in our contract. To say, do we have both sides' dedication of doing that? Yeah? And this is the reason why we put some language also in there to say, we are committed from our side and you are committed from your side. You are covering all the details so that your operational needs, the workflow, everything is covered, and we build them on new technology, this solution.
So the operational needs part is kind of different than the minute details. The reason that I say that is because we know what we need operational as far as what type of data we need to pull, but we're not computer specialists. So I can't write programming. I took it back in '72, so I have no clue. But what I would say is that's why I asked you, had you gone and seen viewed other systems, so that you might know what the basic platform was that's been used in the U.S. and build upon that. You see what I'm saying?
I think we knew the basics of CAD, but we thought that the advantage of this partnership.
This is more, and I think the focus is more on the records management itself. And when I'm
the CAD system also. Yeah. Because
but the CAD system, the different systems which are existing right now from our competitors, we are on one functional set only. This is not an integration rate. For example, the integration of the land mobile radio in order that you have it in the system, that you hook it up with paging and things like this, is done because it is an integrated platform. If you separate all the different subsystems, then they're not any longer integrated. And if I look at this one silo product, it is not in our vision to have silo products. The vision is, and what we put into place now is this integration platform. It's, I just go back.
Well, let me just explain something to you because I understand what you're saying. And so I'm just trying to get a grasp. Okay, back in 1997, I had an integrated records management CAD system that was integrated into our criminal justice data bank, where if I did a report, I could have the photo integrated into that report of the offender. I could have the evidence also integrated into that report, where I could click on the screen if it said yes for evidence, and it would give me all the evidence. It would take me to the evidence page, okay? When it was a report, it would populate the data from CAD right into the report so that you wouldn't have to put as much, and that was like in 1997, okay? Those were integrated systems. I could click on which officers responded to the call, and it would tell me it would take me back to the CAD, and it would tell me all the officers that went to the call. So I do know that those aren't separate systems, they are integrated systems. And that's why I was asking the type, like if you went to Chicago, they also have an integrated system like that. So that's why I was asking the question. Okay. Thank you.
In our original discussion, what was also reflected then in the contract, is that we said that we are not re-engineering other products, because then we just take another product. Well, why would we re-engineer a product? We were set out to define together what the basic requirements are, how they should function, how it should look like in different steps in order to establish this on an integrated platform. That's why we said this, and that the initial participation of the police group as such in this detail was at the beginning not there. And there were, when the first 1.0 came out, frustration. And people said, this is so limited, we can't use it, or we need much more. And then we said from our side, okay, then we did not have this, then let's go through a second. That's our dedication to it. Let's go through it once more, and then move this and see that we meet all the expectations. Also, again, based on what we originally intent was to sit together, have working group, work this out, and then we implement it. And this is where we are today. Vince, do you want to go into the...
Yeah, I'm going to talk about police, since it's the most recent event that we've had in terms of design and test and implementation. And as we looked at the whole police and the comments and what we had gone through with you folks, what should have been a success story turned out to be anything but, it appeared, from our side, which was a quandary for us, because we thought we did take the right steps. We thought we covered the ground with you folks in terms of what was required with that. Instead of using a lower level person, sent my director of software development out here to sit with the users on 2 different occasions, week-long sessions. We thought we had, again, covered the ground, that we truly understood what the requirements were and what we were supposed to implement. Now, just a point of clarification, when we talk about a platform, we are talking about a platform just for the RMS, for the records management system. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that. Robert's going to talk about that in terms of just the platform itself. But right now I'm talking about the police application for the RMS, the records management, on that new platform. So seriously, no one was more disappointed than we were that we didn't have a happy customer at the end of this effort. Again, we thought we took the right steps this time to make sure we get all the information. Some of the reports we got back from our director was we got some mixed direction on occasion, but we thought we reconciled that. We took either majority rules on a particular function, or we got agreement with the group on how to proceed on something. Now, just in terms of commitment and money and that sort of thing, we spent another $400,000 coming up with this platform and this RMS. So this notion that Frequentis is abandoning us or is not committed to this partnership is not true. A lot of questions, because what we had seen prior to that is a report from the trainer who said he had had some one-on-one interviews with the police stations and conducted some offline help sessions and got very positive comments, and he documented that in minutes. So we're reading the minutes and saying, hey, this is looking good. We looked at the training questionnaires, and those questionnaires reflect very positive feedback overall. And when we looked at those, the majority of those reflect statements such as user-friendly, look forward to using the product. So we're thinking, hey, we did the right thing, things are moving, and then we get very well. We thought we did very well on it, and then we get this list. So certainly our disappointment equals yours in that regard. And then we were forwarded to look at this negative feedback letter from Deputy Chief Green.
I'm going to interrupt for a second.
Okay.
Because I'm Chief of Police, Deputy Chief. No, not a negative feedback, a very blunt and honest statement of the facts. I think that's the word I'm saying. Negative was a negative, yes. To you it was negative. It was a positive feedback situation we were trying to send across for something that we had kept great notes over the last year on. So just to clarify that for the
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So moving to the next slide, looking at the list we received, we counted 36 issues and we broke them down into categories. And from our perspective, 15 of the 36 already were just training issues. Misunderstandings about what was user editable, what we agreed in design meetings, what was a user error, etc. And we categorize these things and just give an example. We don't intend to go through every one of those things. I think we do need to do that at some point. But at this point...
And hold on a minute. And this is what I said, that we address certain issues. This is how we see it right now. Yeah? When he's saying, negative feedback from your side, of course it is. This is what we see it. Let's address it. I engage. I want to let them know what our thoughts are, and hopefully we can address it mutually, and we get at the end exactly what we need, and it is really something we can be proud of. Yeah? So he's saying from our side negative feedback because we are disappointed, because we wanted to achieve something where we are all happy with it.
Of course.
Right. And we have to sit down when we categorize now 15 issues we see as a training issue. We want to go through it, and if you say, I don't see this as a training issue, then we have to talk about it to address every single item right now in this round. Doesn't bring us somewhere. There must be dedicated working groups. But we will come to this at the end. How
we have specific recommendations on how we can work together as a team to get through this.
Excuse me, if I could. I think when you talk about disappointment, Deputy Chief Olympia Fields, I've been a patrol guy, I've been the sergeant, been a commander. So we've gone through using your product, and the disappointment is on our end as well. What we thought we were getting was not what we got. So I think when you talk about disappointment on your end, we understand that as well, because the system we were working with, we were told we're going to at least have what we have then, and then some after that. And in my estimation, we haven't got to that point yet, where it's a system that we could really work with well. So the disappointment is on both sides.
We understand. We hear that. So just an example of what we put in the training issue category was there was a comment that drop-downs are excessive, there's too much in them. Our assessment of that was, well, all the drop-down options are editable for the department in the administration section. So maybe this person didn't know that or didn't see that somehow, and maybe that fell back to us that we should have paid more attention to that in the training, and maybe that's a retraining. Then back to the list of the 36, 7 of them we said were covered in RMS 2.1. Did we not get that message across? In other words, this next drop that's coming to finish the new platform and the new application. The example there is you can't attach a mugshot photo to a person, and recognize that that's an inconvenience. It's a problem right now, but it was discussed during the spec sessions, and we said it would be included in that second part of the drop. So for us, that's a done deal. You're going to get that. There were 3 bugs that came up during the training, and they were fixed either at the training or directly after the training. This one was the narratives from the first version of RMS did not keep the text formatted when they were migrated into 2.0. We fixed that, maintained the format. And then the last category was future or need more info. In other words, we couldn't get from the comment exactly what the problem was. So we needed some dialogue. So this is basically, we need more dialogue or do something better here in terms of the description. So there's no form ownership anymore. We went back to the development team and said, and the response was that was a feature we received numerous complaints about from the end users during the design sessions. And it was agreed at those sessions that it was no longer needed. If that's the wrong thing, then we implemented the wrong thing. If there's a conflicting direction, it just illustrates to us that the process needs some change. And one of those things would be a single representative voice that can direct our process so we implement the correct stuff. The software is not intelligent. It can only do what we tell it to do. And so if we tell it to do one thing because we believe that's the majority and that's what we were directed to do, it'll do that. And the people that aren't happy with that aren't going to be happy. It's not going to get fixed by itself. So next steps. How do we get there? This is sort of a microcosm of what our whole message is going to be at the end of the presentation, but we certainly need to get more clarification on the questions and the feedback we received on 2.0. You're disappointed, we're disappointed, that's not good. We got to fix that. But we do believe that the RMS package was defined for the design meetings. So we went in thinking we had either majority or everyone said this is the way it's supposed to work, and that's what we're expecting. And again, I'm not talking about bug fixes. If there are bug fixes, that's on us. We have to fix that. I'm talking about the way a feature particularly works. If that's supposed to be changed or tweaked differently than what we agreed to before, that's a change. That's a change, and we have to recognize it as such. So they have to be handled, those things have to be handled as a change request. But the message here is we can't stay in this cycle of design it, think you have it all right, implement it, and then redesign it again. It frustrates you, costs us money. So we need to get out of this.
And it frustrates also the people who are doing the programming, because they want to bring a product to you where they can be proud of. And if you get the feedback of, well, it doesn't work like this, or I want to have it now different, then he's reprogramming, And after a certain time, they say, do they even want this? I just talk openly, because these are not people who don't care. They come in every day and they want to do something where after a cycle of a month or 2 months, when they are finished with this and they want to have feedback. Some of them ask me to come out here to see how it is used and talk with the people. They're really engaged. And if we come back and say, well, we got other directions again, this is not good. It's not good for anyone.
Could they come out and see how it's done? Like the software people, could they come out and see?
Sure, the software director was here. We had
okay, because let's give an example from the last upgrade. This isn't a complaint about the upgrade at all. It's more of some stuff that was there was taken away. And it wasn't on our list to be taken away. So I'm like, are they recreating the whole thing? You know what I mean?
I do, and I'm trying to think of things. There was an example stated about, in the list, something about tabs versus the list.
No, one of the things, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There's a report I have to do to get our data put on our mapping system, which you're not involved with our GIS mapping. And it was a little cumbersome to have to put the data from, get the data from the computer and put it on Excel, but you had a tab where I could just click and integrate it into Excel and then save it, and that was good for me because I could edit it or whatever and then send it to my person who puts it on my mapping program. Well, that went away where I can't do the Excel. I can't put it in Excel anymore. And I'm like, we didn't ask for that to go away on the list. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'm asking, when you do the upgrade, are you starting from scratch?
No.
So that inadvertently got taken away by mistake, probably. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or we can't address it right now because certain things we already discussed to say, we don't want to have this or things like this. So, but I think either Vince, myself, we are also ready from the executive side and we have set a meeting up that we also join in and sit down with you and get this solved, whatever it takes. Yeah? But the thing is that we have to come to the baseline where the structure is implemented and then the people are really happy with it. And not that we in our language we have this example of we bring the first stone and it's too round and the next one is too big and the next one is too small and this is frustrating. Yeah? We try hard, and when we then get the feedback of this is not what we want, then we have to change this cooperation and how we address it.
Robert, when we're talking about this concept of not wanting to stay in design, implement, and redesign, we have version 1 and then 2.0 and what we're looking to see in September. One of the things that seems to be problematic for me is just the continuity on Frequentis' side. That from the outset of developing the system, 2008, even before then as you were designing it, maybe I have it wrong, but it seems to me like there's been people on Frequentis' side who were a part of it, developing it, but then they were redirected to other projects. And I don't know if that's part of the problem, where you go from the first generation of design and then implementation and redesign, and then those people transition to something else, maybe are still with the company, but then they forget the things that may be very useful for users, basically, or from the user group standpoint, gets lost. And how do we protect that going forward so that whatever is the next generation, if we're looking at a rollout in September of this year, how do we get those things that were positive in the training that happened just a couple months ago, and then get to all the outstanding issues so that what you roll out next isn't going to lose things that were deemed to be useful in versions 1 and 2.
The majority of the software team is stable over the last 3 years. So,
but the system's been online 5 years, right? How many years has it been
no,
online?
we have it now over 2 years.
May
in
2001.
operation.
But then 2 years in development, right?
No, since 2008 we started.
Exactly. Okay, and that's my point.
Yeah. But the one which probably came the statement from is that the trainer we used on this is a year with the company. Yeah? And he made a statement during the training because he didn't know better. Yeah? And then the appearance was, well, these are all new people and they abandoned the past and what they learned during that time, it's getting not reused. This is not the case. We have people on for a stable period. We had 2 people who left the company over this 5 years period, and we got new people in. Yeah? But our software lead now is on there for 4 years now, and a few software developers are on from the beginning. Yeah? So not that you get the wrong impression here that there are always new people and we just move on. Yeah? There are certain things with the other projects. Sure, we have other projects now. Yeah? And the software team is also addressing other projects. That's the nature of business. But we have a dedicated team. But what the underlying issue we have here is when we design something, then we go back and have the people dedicated to implement it, then we come out to show it, and then it said, no, it's again differently. This cycle we have to break. Yeah? Because you go into a design, you implement it, and then you probably have small tweaks, but not feature changes. Yeah? And we also have this.
In typical federal programs, you have milestones that you hit with any design or implementation. One's called PDR, Preliminary Design Review, where the customer comes and says, okay, show me how you intend to implement this. And then you go through this back and forth and you decide, no, we want to tweak there, you want to change there. And then you go back, the developers go back, finish that, and then you do a critical design review. And the critical design review is where you say, okay, this is the final design, this is the way we have it. You're still able to make changes at that point, but at the CDR, it should reflect what's going to go in the field. And those phases we try to emulate with these 2 visits from our software development manager.
If I can throw something out, I can understand the commitment and the dedication on everybody's part from both sides. But I think, looking at the fire and police side of it, they are held responsible and accountable for the safety of all 4 communities now, today. And I can understand you say you want to do things differently. But at the same time, to do things differently, they're still held responsible daily and not to have meetings 2 weeks out and start building teams. What is going to be different that gives them something to be supported on and what they're held responsible for daily and not 2 weeks out, 5 weeks out, 6 months out? I understand getting to new versions and bringing things, but when things are taken away, that the chiefs and or the people that report directly to them that have this accountability held, to have the meetings 2 months down the line doesn't help them when they need it daily. And I think that's something that I've got to hear, daily versus down the line.
Well, from the daily, from the police side, it is the package from the feature set and everything what was discussed was in 2 drops, yeah? The 2.0 and the 2.1. Yeah? The people now still work on it, and in September we will deploy the 2.1. And all these clarification questions and things like this, where we got some feedback now, we have to discuss. We as soon as the better. Yeah? But we have to discuss this not clear statements.
I think we got to sort through this list to define what are the mission critical issues that impact public safety that need immediate attention, and they would task immediate assistance to get it corrected. And what are on that list that are usability issues and ease of use and convenience. There's probably a number of different categories in here, but clearly, the chiefs, before we close today, if in your development of this list, and Chief Crowell, your operating committee, if you know that there are some very critical reliability issues, mission critical issues, things that impact life and safety, we should try to get those out now so they can immediately say, we're going to task tomorrow to start working on those and get those corrected right away. These other things might have to evolve over a number of weeks, maybe even a number of months, but we need to prioritize each of these, to a level of, of need.
And just to kind of come on the back end of that, David, I think we've got to make sure that we're not only being told we're a priority, but we're seeing the results of being a priority and not an option being serviced as a client.
Can I just?
I'd like to, statements or questions, I don't know how they're going to come out. But, my name is John Ward. I work for the Metropolitan Alliance of Police. I'm a representative for SouthCom and some of the police departments involved. Just listening today, I think, not to dwell on the past, but I'm hearing this side has a perception of the breakdown that is different from this side as far as that goes. I hear that we have submitted to them, then I hear from them there was limited involvement from the police departments. And I think it's very important, number one, to identify that breakdown before we can move forward. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to. And going back to what's different now than what it's been. I know the representative from MAP for almost 2 years has written letters and of concerns. And to this day, my understanding is a lot of those concerns are still present. So that's 2 years of just us, and I don't know anybody else's involvement as far as that goes. I would ask the board, almost going along the lines of what this gentleman said, that we do, because of the way it has continued, that there is a time frame that is looked at or expected or, hoped for as far as addressing this instead of allowing it to continue going. Because you're talking, and I can appreciate a lot of stuff you guys said up there as far as what you've corrected and the money you've invested, but I personally, and I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but I think the commitment of money, I don't think is really all that important from the users. Because when I look at the list, there are safety issues. And I was a police officer myself, so I know what safety issues are. And, you guys brought up some of the fixes. You guys brought up how people want options for drop boxes and stuff. That's important to a sense, and I get that you guys cannot necessarily do that or do that right away. But there are several safety issues that have been addressed and not taken care of. So I think the user preference versus necessity, as you said, needs to be identified, but I think some kind of a time frame is critical here, because this just seems to be dragging on with the same issues that never get addressed.
Well, I think Frequentis is prepared to lay out a full process. Do you have additional elements on the process?
Sure. But I have to come back to the statement you made with if something is fundamentally missing or would be mission critical. It's the reason why we sit down to discuss what needs to be in the product, how it should function. Yeah? If it was not addressed, yeah, and this comes also to this partnership, yeah, what we went in, that we get from your side all what is necessary, and this is what we define, and this is what we implement. Yeah? And this is what the 2.0 and 2.1 should cover. And I would be really curious what is missing, because then it was not in the design.
Robert, I believe the lists that he's primarily speaking about, correct me if I'm wrong, are on the CAD side. I don't
Have they already been addressed, Jenny? Those
Well,
issues?
no,
No, don't
there are
worry.
issues that are on that list that have been on that list. It's cut over. Albeit some of them are what they would consider from a usability standpoint.
Okay, and not,
But
not
I
mission critical.
believe that's what
Okay.
he was, those are the lists that he's really primarily speaking about. They're talking about 2.0, there's a difference. There's a difference between the
Yeah, I
RMS
didn't
and
know
the.
what the,
I
there's
just
a
wanted
lot
to
of
make sure that
different
clarification was
yeah,
out there,
sure.
that's all.
And this is where I said in the beginning that dedicated workshops have to be set up to discuss and to agree on, is this now in scope or out of scope? Yeah? Because we did define an SSTT, we did say what the minimum requirements are. This is not that it is just open forever to add and add and add. Yeah? And this is probably where also some delays come in, because we have not addressed. But this is something where you really have to go into the details. Yeah?
Right. But that probably one of the first tasks of the operating committee is immediately to call a special workshop with Frequentis and the operating committee, go through this list and just pull out those mission critical issues, whether it be in the CAD system or the RMS system. So Frequentis can give you a table that's very timely for immediate response, so we have reliability to protect life and property. And then the convenience issues, the usability issues can be sorted out through the process.
We have that on the CAD and the fire side. We don't for the police 2.0, but we've done that
Okay.
on the CAD and the fire side. only because it's been here, they haven't changed. The only reason we haven't done it on the police side is because they just changed their platform. So their issues are newer now.
Denise, what percentage of that list on the fire and CAD side are the mission critical impact of public safety versus usability and convenience?
If I had to give a percentage, I
just
don't
like-
know that I could give a percentage.
If I
A
could
fair
add more for a
representation.
moment, which is, I would argue that all of those are mission critical, because if it's not working in CAD, if it's not working in SouthCom, it's not gonna trickle down, so to speak, and work for fire, EMS, and police.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, I agree with you. That's what I'm saying, if I had to give you a percentage, I mean, there are some usability things on there, but the rest of it, we've identified as high issues that need to be fixed now.
And for how long do you have those?
They've been on the list for a long time in some cases.
And I'm gonna ask my boss to keep me on a leash here if my frustrations have been, I apologize. Certainly ahead of time. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate what Frequentis is trying to do, okay? I'm very fortunate in the fact that I'm able to recognize the efforts of SouthCom. I'm able to recognize the efforts of all of our deputy chiefs that from the police side and the fire side that were tasked with creating this list to present to Frequentis, okay? That being said, I'm also fortunate that I have no preconceived notions. I've only been here 6 months. But during those 6 months that I've been here, I'm hearing the same complaints, and they're pretty consistent. And if I'm hearing everybody correctly, those complaints are all stemming from the first version of your product, however that version came to be. Was it a lack of information from the police, fire, EMS, and SouthCom? Quite possible. But I think what you're finding now is that United States public safety, even for for smaller agencies, is drastically different than the rest of the world's law enforcement, fire, and EMS responses. And I think that's probably where part of the disconnect is coming from. And I'm only speaking for myself. I can't speak for the other chiefs and the other operating committee members here. Please jump in if I'm going off course. But the usability, you have to focus on correcting all the separate pieces to make the whole work better. And that'll eliminate some of the frustrations on your side as well. I don't buy the fact that yes, it's a beta site, but yes, it's a beta site. That can only go for so long. It can only go for so long. And every version, every change, everything that I hear, one change is made, but yet 2 other problems are created because of that change. And now everybody's throwing up their hands going, it's not working. It's definitely not working. And I personally don't understand why some of this functionality that's been available for years from other RMS and CAD systems. Okay, and I'm not going to mention any other vendors, that's not my place. But that functionality has been available for years. Why isn't it available currently, and why wasn't it available when version 1.0 was rolled out? I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I don't want to recreate the wheel. I'm going to look at a product that works, and please, Deputy Chief, jump in if I'm wrong. What they had previous, we were promised back in the day that the new version, when Frequentis came in, was going to be better than what they had. And every complaint I'm hearing that it's not. And there's zero way for you. I'm not saying steal their product, but I'm saying look at their functionality and maybe come to some commonality with 2.1. And I fully agree with having a timeline. It works for you. It'll certainly work for us, and it'll lower our stress levels across the board. Is there anything that I missed operationally?
The Chief's correct. I mean, in our old system, and not to compare one system to the other, but we had a lot of functionality and things that we used every day. And we were told, okay, that you guys are going to look at this system and you're going to see what we have, and it's going to be that and then some. And I think, our disappointment comes in where, a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, we're not back to where we were with our previous system yet. The functionality, our ability to run certain reports like the other chief talked about, and things like that, we haven't got back to that yet to try to build on that. And I think that's where the chief's going is, you know, there are other products out there that do a similar thing, and maybe you just get a better, you know, if it had that functionality of a lot of these other products, and then we had, you know, more on top of that. That's what we were looking for, and that's what we thought we were getting, and I think that's where our disappointment comes in, that we're not back to where we were years before this.
And I think from my perspective, something that's disheartening is that we're talking about how we can't stay in a design cycle. But I don't know that any of us can agree that we've reached a design that we feel comfortable with and that we can build from. And I think that's very frustrating from our perspective, that design that we anticipated, at least in my opinion, is not there. That's what I see as a major issue.
I'd like to add something. I think that, simply stated, you made a statement earlier, why would you re-engineer a system that's already existing? Well, the answer is simply because it works. You know, you want to put your spin on a system that works is what we're looking for. I know we started off by saying that we did not want to finger point, and trust me, I'm not trying to do that. But what the problem is at the initial onset of the project, everybody knows that 90% of this board is new, but at the initial onset of this project, 90% of this board were end users. And I think what we need to focus on is the problem was when we had the previous board and the executive committee, none of them were end users. They don't know what we need as the police because they never use the system. To this very day, they don't use the system. So the frustration, and I'd like to speak for the police department, that we have is that there are several systems out there that not only work, but have worked for years, decades, and we would have expected that during your research, you would have implemented some of the basic things. I understand, we're not putting the blame on you because like you said, nobody told you at the onset that the police need these basic things in the system, which is why you didn't do it. I don't put that blame on you. I put that blame on the different committees. But who do you really blame? Because they never use the system. They don't know what police do on a daily basis. And nobody in here, for the most part, is an end user. I don't use all the functions. I don't use the CAD because I'm not on patrol. I don't drive around. I don't make traffic stops anymore. I'm an executive. I listen to what my people need, and this is what we express to you. We need more input from the day-to-day end users. We need more a system that is similar to some of the working systems, and I think that is how we get to our goal. You see what everyday police officers do, you see what they need, you see what the functions that they rely on, we pick those functions and make it happen. I agree that every time we bring something else to your committee, that you guys fix it. It's just that we forgot to give you a whole bunch of data in the beginning for you to work with. I think that's really what this problem is all about. And until we hit that goal, we're just, pointing and shooting. We're never gonna, we need to narrow it down, focus on that, and take it from there.
Chief, I hear what you're saying, but I think, and maybe this is where we have to look at how do we fix it going forward, because we can only so much look at what the issues are previously. Because we can talk about what was in 1.0, what was in 2.0, what's in 2.1. We have to fix the issue looking to the future. I would say, knowing what I was aware of as the chair for the last 4 years for the executive board, every time the operating committee would meet, which is monthly, there were issues that were raised, whether it's from the rank and file within fire or police. They were raised at those operating committee meetings, and then they were conveyed. And I know that because the chair, whether it was the former chair, retired Chief Wilcox, or the current chair, routinely, after those operating committee meetings, there would be a phone conversation with folks from Frequentis saying, okay, here's an issue that has to be reconciled. And if it didn't take place every month, it was probably 10 months out of the year. So, this notion of not communicating, I guess what I'm wondering is going forward, if nobody at the table from the operating committee, and from the board standpoint, we lean heavily on the operating committee. And if we don't have the technical expertise at the operating committee level, then, and this is the question I just asked to the village administrator from Madison, we need to know for the user group committee, if there will be one, who are the techies from each department, from all 7 public safety departments, fire, police, across all 4 communities, and perhaps even who is the techie rep from MAP, from the staff personnel who are using it, to fix the issues going forward. Because clearly, I can only expound upon what my deputy chief and the chief from both departments tell me. Clearly, I don't have that expertise. But to say that that hasn't been communicated previously, or that the operating committee wasn't communicating, I have to take strong exception to that, because that's just not the case. So I guess fixing it, going back to that notion of fixing it going forward, how do we assemble the best user group that's going to help them understand what are those benchmarks that have to be taken care of? And to your point, Chief, I think with all due respect, there are some items that are, back of the list items. I just feel that that's the case. Having looked at the details, there are some items that, they're probably, user-friendly items for public safety personnel, for dispatching personnel, that can go to the bottom of the list and still not compromise public safety. I just think that goes without saying. The biggest issue, as I see it, is reliability, first and foremost. And when we had a couple of issues at the outset where the system just went down, that to me was catastrophic. And we haven't had those issues, so that I think is the first benchmark, the first hurdle to get over. The next thing I see is the data, because the data can't get lost. I look at reliability and public safety. The data the data that went in 2011, 2012, and now, I hope that we're able to continue to have that and capture it and hold on to it, because that all comes into public safety and liability issues. Hold on, I'm not done. There's legal ramifications within the port systems if we can't go back and get that data. Stuff happened in 2011, 2012. If we have to start in September with a whole new data set, that to me is incredibly problematic. And by the way you're shaking your head, I hope that that's not the case.
This is not the case.
Okay.
And because I really want to address this, because it is serious. Yeah? And when someone says that data gets lost or things like this, when we originally, we had to consolidate a lot of different databases. It was major. And we defined what gets carried over, what should be. We went through data cleansing. It was, then as you can remember, months and months and months of work to get all the data in, to eliminate what was wrong in there, duplicates, names, things like this. Even we pointed, we also discovered that some data holes were in there for the records. So, and at that time we defined what is the mission critical aspect of the data set which needs to be moved on. The same we have done now with moving from 1.0 to 2.0. We moved the same data set. We got now the information that is, there were additional comments and things like this. We don't see them now. And we said, yeah, the data is still there in 1.0. One can go in there, one can retrieve it, one can look at it, and there's only the possibility of moving it to the next button. But these were exactly the data set which was not moved over from the old system, where we moved 10 years of history into the new system. So if this now becomes suddenly the mission critical aspect, then I must say, what happened with the 10-year comments from 1989 to 2010? The data is there and we can move it over when the comment and notes and things like this are needed, and it is not gone, it is there, but it was not a set which we originally moved from the old database.
Robert, I just have to address that issue because one of the things on the police list is not having the ability to have dispositions in the new 2.0 on old incidents. In HTE, the way you had to carry that data over, it was attached in another field and it got carried over. From your 1.0 system, it was different, in a different place, or it was done differently. Into the 2.0, now you have the ability to see it, you have that field open. That's the data that they're needing most of the time, that didn't get carried over. To be quite honest, nobody ever asked me, you know, is that a data set that needs to be carried over? I was never asked.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was going over. And didn't know until they said, hey, what happened with all the dispositions on old things? When I questioned that, they said, well, it didn't get carried over. Okay, well, why wouldn't you carry that over? Because we had the ability to do that before. So I just need to make that clarification, because that's not completely.
And that's in our response as well, is that we
And
didn't
now
ask.
we cannot add to it.
We should
Before
have.
we used to be able to add to it, now we have to open an additional call to add to that.
So where do we go?
But this is the same thing. If we say, okay, if this is needed, then we will migrate this additional data set. There's no question about it.
What's the comprehensive next step solutions?
Well, the thing is, we have in our presentation, probably it takes too long. We would, in the same way we addressed now the police, we addressed the CAD, we addressed the fire, but there is the need of getting together anyway, and discussion also, you know, how do we see it, what is the current status, and then going also through the list of, and I think very important is this establishing the baseline, what is in scope, when the new requirements come, and how do we get forward. This has to be done in the program teams, I see. So we can either carry on going through the other steps, or we just come to the summary, what our expectation is, or what our recommendation is.
Let's go to the summary, please.
So then go to the last slide. Because of the, and I think you mentioned the breakdown of communication, the new team, the basic understanding on what the different entities here have on expectations or support from each other and things like this. What we are recommending is that we, first of all, we will set up a senior program manager so that we bring in more structure and clarity. Stronger enforced project management processes and stuff like this. But most importantly, from my point of view, specifically to address overarching issues, how we work together, what the expectations are, if the expectations get met, if timelines are told us. What we usually set up is a steering board, where decision makers from both sides sit together and get a briefing from the program managers on the status, the current open issues, how they are addressed, in what timeline, what priority, what the cost impact is, things like this. So that it really is, the program gets mentoring from the executive team as well. But what is needed is certainly the structure, then the understanding, so that we are all on the same page, so that we can establish the timelines and set the expectations from both sides in the wrong way. Otherwise there will be permanently frustration, and this is what we all don't want, because we all want to fulfill our objective of serving the public in general.
Sir, if you had this to do over again, knowing all the problems that we've had in the beginning of this and all through this, would you do it again?
In the very beginning, I would do it again, but I would do it differently. I would really conduct, first of all, to set the groups and to conduct kickoff so that the members of the users, the ones who are in the field, are in the team. Yeah? One is discussing what the expectations are, give a full picture of where each one comes from, what is expected from each other and what the outcome should be within the time, define it, and really have it reviewed and say, okay, this is what we need before one starts to implement or do something. I think the time and the frame and was not there. Also the, let's say the scope as such was not clear enough defined. When I mentioned this with the databases we said, you know, we set out to have this platform, we discuss it, we define everything, we implement it. And then, well, you know, what do we do with this database and this database, and we need to move this. And I said, no, okay, in this partnership we set out to do it, let's move the database. It was a tremendous work, which we did not anticipate at the beginning, to make it much more clear what is the expectation, what is in scope, what each one signs up for, and what is not. And if something comes up, and it is additionally that there is then a common decision of saying, okay, we did not think about it, yeah? This will have an impact of, let's say, 3 months, yeah? So we moved the end date for 3 months because we both did not see it, yeah? And not that it is, well, this is additional now, but the end date needs to hold, the end date needs to hold. And then in this, said, okay, let's try, and then eventually the end date didn't hold. So it came to the delays, yeah? The delays were not communicated as such, caused frustration, yeah? What is this company doing? Why is there a delay? Because there were a lot of additional things coming which we did not consider at the beginning.
So Robert, should we start with your senior program manager and your software technician to meet with a roll up your sleeves, working group of, you know, the operating committee and some of the technical user representatives from those agencies, both fire and police, and at least start in an immediate fashion getting through this list and making sure that those mission critical issues, whether it be CAD or RMS, whether it be police and fire, are addressed, and the operating committee can feel comfortable with the timeline to do that. I mean, as soon as you guys can, Chief Kroll is the chairman of the operating committee, your program manager, you know, within.
And we don't need cast of thousands to do this. I mean, if we can identify a single person or two people that are, they're the decision makers. They're saying, this is the way we're going. Like it or not, the rest of the group, this is the way we're going. Or get consensus or whatever, so that that's clear. Going back to your point, though, and would we have done this differently, I think you're absolutely right. We have a statement in the contract that says we're going to create this new thing, basically a clean slate we're going to start because you want a customized system. We probably should have approached this together as, here's the baseline set of requirements, now we're going to customize. Instead of a 10-spoke wheel, I want a 20-spoke wheel, but you got to build a wheel. So I would agree.
So the system in September we're gonna get is gonna be completely different than what we're working on now?
No.
Because here's the problem that I have, and I went to the classes that you guys offered when this RMS came out. And we all had our concerns when we sat in the class about juvenile things, about how to add data to it. And I don't think, although we gave you a good evaluation, I think we all sat there and had our concern. And then several weeks later, you guys said, as of this date, we're rolling live with this, and we all had our concern. And I think there should be some type of a trial period for people, a couple people from each department, so that we can tell you before you give it to the masses. My officers don't have the time to go through the hundreds of tabs to write one little report. And when they're stockpiling 10 and 15 reports a day, and they have 20 tabs that they have to do to put in one person for one report, it's too time consuming. They didn't get to go to these classes. So when you're going to redevelop the system that they're just kind of now getting comfortable with after they've had it for a month, and you're going to give them another version of this in September, they're overwhelmed. They're upset about how it is over on the dispatch side, and then they have the record side of it, and nothing is meshing for them. And there's no training for them either. We just kind of dump this on them, and it's too bad, so sad. You either swim or you don't. I mean, we have true cases right now, and the reports are messed up. The reports are going with felony cases. These people's real lives are being affected by these reports. And once they're submitted to the court system, we can't fix them. They have to go the way they were printed. So this is the problem that we're having. And every day we come up with some new issue. She talked about the dispositions that came over from CAT. We lost a bunch of narratives. Some of those reports had to go to court like that, with the missing narratives, or the narratives that printed in one giant paragraph. Now, just as of the last 2 days, the margins have changed. So it looks like you have a full sheet of paper, but the narrative prints from the left side, and it's only half of the page on the left side. And it's all of these issues that are coming up that were fine 2 weeks ago, but now they're messed up.
We did have a trial period. To your point, we did have a trial period. We loaded it early before we went live.
But who used it?
I'm not sure.
No, but first of all, it is an addition and not a new system. Eh? We can set it up also that only selected user could use then the new functionality, and then when it is released by this group, so that we roll it out to the rest. Yeah?
But isn't there a way for us to try it out before everybody is forced to use it, so that we can come to you and say, there's a problem with this section. This section doesn't work for us.
It's what I just said. To set it up so that certain users can use the new functionality in order to get comfortable with feedbacks before we roll it out for the rest.
And, you know, the expectation, and I think I said something else, and I know the chief did, to have as many people attend that training as possible. So, I mean, is it, well, hold on. Is it the case that the officers you're talking about didn't go to the training and weren't?
I had 33 officers that needed to be trained. No, not even half of them got the opportunity to go to that
Why is
training.
that? Because the training was offered
For a
for a
week.
full week. How many of our people were, chief?
The 30, 35.
I mean, that, to me, that's,
Actually, a 42 total.
that to me, that's one of the problems about if you're trying to communicate.
Even going
Oh,
to the
just
class.
let me finish. Let me finish. I mean, the dialogue here really is between the operating committee, the leaders of the departments, the executive board, and these folks. You know, when they manifest this training for a week and say, okay, everybody needs to get to it. If a lot of people didn't make it to that training, we can't point the finger at them.
No doubt.
We really
but I went
can't.
to 2 of them, and I still struggle with the system
Okay.
of learning all
Sure.
of these tabs and where everything should go and all the drop-down boxes.
Did you express that to the trainer
I did.
specifically?
I went to
Is
2
that
of
part
them.
of
I went to the
minutes?
second one just because of that.
It is also part, and during the design session, when I can remember, I think I can remember correctly, it was before it was a long list, yeah? And in the design, it was agreed in the group to have tabs, to have quicker access to the different areas, how to enter data, how to manipulate data. It looks different, you know, but it was agreed in this session. So this is what we want to address. When we said, you know, we have to see how we come to the point that whoever represents a group has got this decision authority in order to.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that
establish
should happen today, either after the close of this meeting, maybe the operating committee and staff and Frequentis can brainstorm what is the immediate next step. Do we work with the senior project manager and the operating committee in a brainstorming session to get those mission critical things identified, get an acceptable timeline to get them corrected? Or do we set up an ad hoc committee of operating committee members and a user committee? Or do we set up a user committee, you know, some kind of process? But you guys need to, I think the executive board has to take a back seat for the initial step. We need to have a process defined, you know, maybe next week. We can have a meeting with Frequentis and the operating committee. You can brainstorm it. But clearly, those reliability issues, those issues that affect safety to the public, to our officers, both fire and police, have to be addressed immediately, and that's the first task. This is a multitask system to correct, you know, convenience, usability, but the most important is reliability. So focus on that. And then I think we've all got it really clear that a public-private partnership is not a user-client relationship. It really does require a higher level of participation by the village administrative team, the chiefs, the records clerks, the patrol officers, the firefighters, and we've got to make sure that we're delivering the information. And I like the idea of the stronger enforcement of project management and the sign-off. And maybe initially, we need more quarterly steering, more than a quarterly steering board meeting. Probably we need 3 or 4 meetings in the first month to get this thing filtered down. So how can we get there? Chief Kroll and Frequentis, what would be a good process? Do you have the time to do a little brainstorming, informal, after this meeting to define, or do you set up a meeting next week between the Frequentis team, the operating committee, and the users and figure it out?
I think ideally the chiefs and their deputy chiefs can meet in their conference room and at least identify who will be responsible for what at that point. And then once we get that hammered out, we can certainly reach out to Frequentis and move forward. We've got a July 3rd operating meeting. And at that point, it should be able to provide additional clarification.
And it would be good if you can take advantage of the folks that flew out here today from Vienna and from Virginia, from Frequentis USA and from Europe, at least initially, to go back and forth. So we're in sync as a team in the public-private partnership down the next step.
I have to come back because I was a little bit surprised now. Because I fully support what Mr. Mick said about training and when you communication as such. If you bring up something new, a new version, like on the business side, when we introduced, I don't know, Microsoft 2010 or things like this, if I bring new versions out and I don't have my people trained, and we get it forced on them, and they are dedicated for doing their daily job, and then they say, oh, it looks completely, and now I don't find this one any longer, I don't find this one any longer. Of course, they are then frustrated because they are dedicated to their work. But if they don't get trained, if it looks completely differently, then they will say, oh, forget about it, you can't use it. But without training, I mean, would be really something which can't work. So we have to look at this.
If I may, it's not just the training that we're talking about. I think something's getting lost here is our end users. Now, we can send them all the training, but that's a controlled environment. And some of the frustrations when you guys said that you were surprised that you singled out Deputy Chief Green from Park Forest, but that's a frustration from all of us. Mm-hmm. But you're training in a controlled environment and using examples that you guys are picking, whereas when we go out to apply these in a real world environment, and we deal with hundreds of different incidents, different types on a day-to-day basis. In the beginning, when you guys came out, I remember you guys sending out representatives to ride along with these end users, these patrol officers and detectives and things like that. That got lost somewhere along the way. And for you guys to come out, now what we're having is these end users are reporting to the operating committee saying these are the problems. And then we report to the executive board. And then it gets to you. I think we're getting too many communication layers, whereas you guys are not sending out representatives to our departments, to each of our facilities anymore. I see you guys, every so often when you do updates, but that's it. And the second thing is, I think, is you guys keep saying this is going to be the model for the United States, the model platform, but when is that going to be? How long do we deal with this? I think, everyone keeps saying timetable, but when?
But I agree with you. I personally had ride-along sessions at the very beginning. We did this, and we should also be addressed because to see what is your need. If you say, for some it would be these are my 3 or 5 key people who use the system extensively. They are also the let's say, opinion leaders, yeah, when they say it works, then all the other one will be asked by other ones how to use the system, and like this, when we address this, when we try out with them with a new version, you know, when this we have to discuss and then reinforce it if this helps. You know, there's not an objective from our side to say, no, we don't want to do that. Yeah? It belongs to the entire picture.
Okay. I think we're at a pretty good point. I think you've kind of expressed some of your thoughts on how we move forward. I think the operating committee will get together and kind of figure out who's going to be on this steering committee. And I agree with Dave. We're probably quarterly, we probably need to meet at least initially more often, so we can actually be on the same page and understand exactly how we're going to proceed with the next steps and put together that timeline to get us to completion. I'm going to open it up if there's any last questions before we can close the meetings and move forward. Any other comments?
And I really encourage folks to hang around, do a little raw brainstorming with our Frequentis representatives and the operating committee members that are here today and the users, just to throw out some ideas to get the ball rolling on brainstorming of what this steering committee should be composed of, make sure that it does accomplish and get down, you know, to records clerks, to the firefighters, and to the patrol officers, to all the users. And then after that, you can, you know, meet individually, and then hopefully within a week or so, call a meeting, have the project manager will just come out and start getting at those mission critical issues and get those corrected immediately.
I think it's important for the operating committee to be on the same page.
I think one thing, you know, you get into the mission critical thing. What's mission critical for one person might not be for somebody else.
Correct.
Our record people deal with all kinds of issues. Losing that data was big to them. When you talk about reports, the report font went from where we could read it to now, you know, I need magnifying glasses to read it. Little, like they talked about, you know, the margins moving. Carl lost all the B's in one of his reports. Things like that may not be mission critical one day, but try to go to court with that, you look like an idiot. So,
I know this is a summary, but when you address this, also with printing, sometimes it is computer settings as such in EDF and things like this, or it is fixed. Yeah, it was an issue and we have already addressed it. So I don't want to leave all these things open, and then everyone thinks that you know, it is unusable. There were certain things were immediately addressed, and
font size is still a problem.
And other things can be also PDF computer settings, which has nothing to do with the software, but we still have to address it that the setting is done correctly. So we have to work through diligently step by step and see what is affected and what needs to be set. Yeah?
Thank you.
If we're going to move towards getting to that end product, you know, if we're looking at September as hopefully being that window, I think we saw something up along those lines. There can't be just one person who's that designated communicator to them from the operating committee. I think within each department you have to have a public safety director. You have to have whoever the most astute second in command is as far as Frequentis issues go. And I realize every department is different as to who has the actual technological wherewithal, as Chief Jordan references. You need to have somebody who really has the technical capacity. Then I think that user group also has to have who are the, I don't know if they're the opinion leaders or the gatekeepers within the respective departments who have the technical wherewithal or hear from the rest of the end users so that they're a part of it. You can't have a committee of 75 people, but I would guess that user group is probably going to have to be somewhere between the 15 people in the room plus second in commands, and down the line you're probably looking somewhere around 24 to get the full landscape of what the officers are seeing, what the dispatchers are seeing, what the records clerks are seeing, because what's that?
Administration too.
Exactly. Because otherwise, if it's all going to funnel just through the operating committee chair, I worry that that's problematic going forward. There has to be this user group that, you know, everybody that's tasked from the user end up, because those are the ones. I mean, Chief Butts can hear what people are saying, but if somebody's not communicating that directed to you so you could fix it from a technology standpoint, you get, I guess, the translation and lose what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. You know, I think putting it all on one person's shoulder, when that one person is going to report to you the needs of everyone from 4 respective departments. It'd be different if they were reporting it from one person to one person, and then now they've got to take it back. But I think to kind of put it on one person's shoulders to say, we only want to hear from one person, collect all the information, I would not want to support that.
Yeah, that's.
Whatever it takes, as long as we can get a consensus.
It is a consensus and consolidated statements. It's more than, if the consolidated statement from the user group is conveyed by different people, so be it, yeah? But it should be consolidated, not 15 different directions.
Right, but I think we've, communicated some of those things and we still have problems. So if that's the case, we may be headed right back in the same direction. If that one person delivers information like we've been delivering over the years and it doesn't get resolved, where are we? In the same place. I think we're trying to go forward.
Because we have to address, first of all, there are some which are addressed and then changed. Okay? There are some issues like this. So this doesn't seem to be a consolidated statement, what is really needed and what is the consolidated statement from the user group. There are other ones where we say this is out of scope. Yeah? So this has got more than just one topic. It is a few different ones. Yeah? And this is what needs to be worked out. And also agreed on between the partnership here, what is in scope and what is out of scope. Yeah? And so the timeline should be set with the group and then the steering board, executive meeting, together with operating team. When can be certain things done? Yeah? And who is responsible for it, also from the timeline, financial line, whatever. Yeah? But this is what we need this for.
Right, and I can fully appreciate that. And I think Chief Crow will do an excellent job communicating directly to you, but then you've got to take that information and spread it amongst the actual people that have to do the work. So if you don't communicate or fully understand what Chief Crow's needs are, and then in that conversation, someone else doesn't need to chime in, Chief Jordan, someone else in that conversation, there's a possibility that you will communicate something to the next person or the next level that may be miscommunicated from Chief Crow. And I don't think we're at the point to even go back into that.
Well, we've accomplished a huge step forward. I mean, the concerns from the public safety operating committee and all your members, were heard by the executive board. The executive board made a commitment to not just ask, a staffer for Frequentis to come down, but the 2 CEOs from USA and from Europe came down to hear your concerns. Having this comprehensive list is a huge step forward in communication. And I think we have a better understanding now between what this is. It's not a client vendor relationship, a client, a local government relationship. This is a public-private partnership. It's going to require a lot more work on our behalf to pull it off, but I believe that we're made a huge step forward in that direction. And if Chief Kroll and Frequentis, before they fly out today, with the help of the other operating group members, can at least define that first step and then get that meeting on the calendar, start getting the mission critical issues, get a timely response, and then the subsequent meeting will be to define what are the second priorities, or the third priorities, and the fourth priorities. We made a huge step forward, and I personally want to thank the companies committee. You certainly have the organizational, institutional, and corporate ability of this firm with their international experience in communication, voice, and data to get the job done. I think a lot of it has been a huge change in staffing at all levels, from the chiefs to command to personnel, and even at our level on the executive board. But I think we've got at least a system in place, and that's what it takes. It's a systems approach.
Chief, Roll, anything else from the operating committee?
Sir, I'm sorry?
Is there anything else you want to say from the operating committee?
I think I covered everything I need to cover. Is there anything else from the membership that needs to be addressed? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I thank you very much for the time you spend with us and give us the platform here to bring our thought in, how we see it, establish new relationship and channels of communication, so that we find a way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you can informally just do a little brainstorming with the Frequentis staff to get that next step refined, take advantage